Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to do a video on some of the supplies that I purchased when I was first doing polymer clay starting out that I found very helpful. I know there's probably a lot of different things out there and different suggestions on stuff to purchase, but this is just what I had and I found very useful, so I hope you'll enjoy this video. First off is polymer clay, of course. This is Primo by Sculpey. There are other brands of clay. This is just what I've tried some of the other brands, and I do find that, they work very well. It's just, this is something I've been using for a while now, and I just find I really enjoy it. So this is what I use. It also comes in 8-ounce blocks. The colors aren't as big a variety as the 2-ounce blocks are. And you can also get the 1-pound blocks, which again don't come in as big a variety as the 2-ounce, but they're good for colors that you use, the colors they do have that you use a lot of. Like for me, I use a lot of white clay, so I just find it a lot easier to buy the 1-pound blocks of clay. Another thing, this is what I bought when I was first starting out, just because like it's like a sample of colors, and it just kind of allowed me to see what kind of colors I liked before, buying the 2-ounce blocks. So I found this very useful. This is what they look like outside of the package. So this is something like I said, I think I would recommend for someone who's beginning. These are ball tools. I purchased these off eBay. See, they got two sides to them. I purchased these off eBay. I found them under the nail art section on eBay or whatever. But you may be able to buy them in the polymer clay part. They weren't very expensive, and I find that they've been very useful even now. I did purchase these two bigger ball tools. Just give me a nicer variety of sizes. So I find these very useful. Another tool is a needle tool. This is good for a bunch of different things. Some of I use it for texturing, or like making smiley faces, or just different things like that. So I do recommend one of these. And a knife. This is an X-Acto knife, but you can get different brands and stuff of these knives, which I've used other brands and I find they work just as well. This is good for doing small cuts or stuff like that. I mean, some people use it to cut strips in long pieces of clay. I don't really have a really straight eye for cutting, so I use the next tool I'm going to show you is what I use for that, which is this. This I find very useful for cutting longer pieces of clay. You can cut it all at once there, and I just find it helps to, make a straighter cut. So this I find is very useful. These two here are just, they're not necessary for doing clay. I just suggest buying them because I found them very useful. There's the Bacon Bond, and then there's a translucent liquid clay. The Bacon Bond I find good for things like if, say, you're making a teddy bear or something and you want to secure the ears or something, because sometimes I find they're not quite as secure just on their own being stuck there. So if you don't want to blend it into the head part of the ornament or whatever you're making, I find this is very useful, and amongst other things. I've used this to do the same thing, and I do find it works. Also, this is good for if you're making, say you want to make frosting or something like that with clay. It works very well for that. It also is good for, I've used it for clay, if I have hard clay that, I want to soften or whatever, I mix a little bit of this, and I find this works really well for that. Another thing is glaze. glazing your charms or items or whatever is optional. But I like to glaze it, or sometimes you can glaze like certain parts of it to give that, you know, would have a shiny surface naturally kind of thing. So I do use this. Like I said, it's not necessary, and I know there are other kinds of things, glazes you can use, or, you know, but this is just what I like to use. I also use alcohol swabs for cleaning dust and dirt and stuff off of my clay. Some people use like Q-tips with, they buy the big containers of rubbing alcohol, and they just, you know, dip the Q-tip in it or whatever and use that way. I mean, that works. I've done that, and that works very well. As well as some people will use nail polish remover with acetone, I think is what does it. But anyway, they use that, and that works too. I like these because I find they're individually wrapped, and, you know, they're just moistened with the alcohol, so I find they work just as well. And I can, you know, fold them down to different sizes in order to get to small areas and stuff. So this is just what I use. Like I said, it's not, you know, you can use other things as well, but this is just what I prefer to use. Another thing I find good to have are baby wipes. They don't have to be brand name or anything like that. I find most work. I have bought some, I'm not sure what brand they are, but they got, I don't know, they're a little more fuzzier, I suppose. They got more lint to them and stuff that, you know, still work for your surfaces and stuff. That's what I use them for, is to like wipe off my surfaces, or to wipe my hands in between colors, you know, to wash my hands and stuff. But anyway, I find sometimes with the ones, like I said, that got more lint to it, that just, it sticks to my surface more. So, you know, but anyway, any kind will work. And like I said, these are I find them very, very useful. Another thing that is useful is a pasta machine. It's not necessary, and you don't need to go out and buy one, because, you know, you can use the rollers, which, you know, I do recommend getting one anyway, because, you know, just for smaller projects or whatever, smaller pieces of clay you need to roll out. But I like the pasta machine because it allows me to be consistent with the thickness of my clay. So that's very helpful. But like I said, these will work too. And I know there are tutorials or methods on how to, you know, get an even amount of thickness using a roller and stuff. So, I mean, like I said, the pasta machine's not necessary. It's something I found very, very useful when I was first starting out. Another thing that's, you know, optional is cutters. Not only just for like shapes for different things or whatever, but I also find them useful. Like if you're making, say, you know, you want to make, you know, more than one of the same kind of, let's say, charm or something, and you need them all to be the same size. Well, I find it's good if you roll your clay out and you use these, it will give you the same size, you know, because to me, I'm not very good at just kind of eyeballing the size of, you know, to get the sizes the same. So I find that cutters are more than just, you know, for just shapes. They're for other reasons. But you know, like I said, these aren't really necessary to buy when you're first starting. It's just something that's, you know, useful, I find. Another thing is a surface, like, you know, a smooth surface. I just recently got this. I seen it on a video from Polymer Clay Tutor, and I just, you know, I thought it was a good idea, and then it was given to me as a birthday present. So, and I really, really love this, and I really, really do recommend it. But what I did start out with is this tile that I got from I think a hardware store, and you know, it works well, and it's smooth, and the surface works good. So I find that's you know, really well. So, you know, and it's not really that expensive to buy this. I think it was only a couple dollars. So this is a good starting out surface. Another thing I recommend is a tile. I would get a glazed top tile, like something shiny. I think you could probably, well, you could use the other ones that aren't quite as shiny, especially if you don't want to shine to your, like the back of your project or whatever, you know, because this will, you know, give it, the back will become shiny. But anyway, I find tiles are useful because when you're making something, obviously you can't bake it. You can't put a big tile like this in the oven. So this is good, like if you're making a project and, you know, so you don't have to lift it from here to here, you know, like so you know, so then you're not distorting it or whatever before you get the chance to put it in the oven. So I find that these tiles are useful. I know there's different things you can do to make it so that you don't get shiny spots on the back, but that will maybe be a video that I will do some other time. Another thing I found useful, I guess depending on what you're doing, is chalk pastels. I find these are good for, like, if you're making something with, like, for shading or, like, putting rosy cheeks on something. Like, sometimes I do, like, food items, so I find it's good for shading, you know, to give it, like, a cooked look kind of thing. And I found these were very useful. Like I said, depending on what you're making, some things wouldn't require these, so, you know, you don't need to buy them. And another thing I suggest, which I will have to take you over to it, so I will be right back. This is the oven that I used for baking my polymer clay. You can use either a convection oven or a toaster oven. Both will work just fine. You can also use your kitchen oven. I don't recommend that you do. I recommend that you get an oven that is just for polymer clay, but if you can't afford it or it's just not something you have right now, you can use your kitchen oven. But like I said, I would recommend either a toaster oven or a convection oven that you bought just for the purpose of polymer clay. So that's my toaster oven that I use for baking polymer clay. One suggestion I do have and that I found very helpful was if you bake your project, make a tinfoil tent over top of it. I found it when I was first starting out, I didn't do that, and a lot of my projects got burnt. And there's nothing more frustrating than, you know, working for like hours on a project and just to have it burnt and, you know, no good. So I do suggest that. Some people suggest an oven thermometer, which I've never had to use just because I'm lucky enough that the foil tent works for me and I've never had any problems with burning since then. But I do suggest an oven thermometer as well. So those are just my suggestions. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you found it useful. And if you like it, please subscribe to me for more videos and I will see you next time.